Welcome to this video. This time I would like to explain and demonstrate how to set up the IPS for a new region. Before I open now the IPS in Excel, I would like to explain a few very basic things, because when talking about a new region, we need to know what happens in this new region in terms of field work over the time of the year. So at what time do we need to carry out which operations, and what is the capacity of the machines during that time? For these purposes, there are calendars integrated in the IPS. The calendars, they subdivide the year into 24 half-month periods, starting with January first half, January second half, and going up to the end of the year, December first half, December second half. So each half-month period is equal to 15 days. And if you look at this calendar, then you see on the vertical axis hours displayed, and this can be used now to display the working time requirements in each and every half-month period of 15 days and the capacity, the working time capacity in each of the 24 half-month periods. So if you now imagine what the time capacity was if we had throughout the year the same capacity, let's say 15 days in a half-month period times every day 8 hours. That would equal 120 hours in each and every half-month period. Of course, it's never like that because we have differences over the year. But if it was like that, then the working time capacity of each half-month period can be displayed with this green area. The working time capacity over the year is, of course, never constant. It goes up and down, not only because there might be holidays and weekends. First of all, it depends on the weather conditions and the climate conditions. How many working hours are actually available in a certain half-month period? And since this is very, very different from region to region, such a capacity calendar looks completely different from region to region, and that's why it has to be set up before the whole planning process can start in a certain region. The working time capacity over the year, however, is just one part of the calendar. The second part is the working time requirement that is determined by the field operations that are required for the different field crops. In this visual calendar, the time requirement over the year is now displayed in these blue bars that, for example, may show the working hours of a tractor over the year that are required to grow a certain crop in a certain area. So as long as the blue bar working time requirement is below the capacity line, everything is fine, and the machine, the tractor maybe, has sufficient capacity. But if the blue bar with the requirement exceeds the capacity line, it means that a second machine, a second tractor is needed. So all these calculations will be done by the IPS, but before this can be done, the calendar has to be set properly. And since this is different from region to region, we need both. We need, for every new region, we need the capacity line for the machines, and we need the calendar defining the requirements of all the field operations of all the major crops over time. So let's have a look now how this is done in the IPS. We call the data entry assistant, and on the left-hand side there's a section about time capacity, and what we need is the first button, setting the time capacity per period. So this is again a calendar, and you see up here it starts again with January, first and second half, goes to the right until December, first and second half. In the list, you see each and every machine, each and every tractor and implement that is available in the IPS. For each and every half month, there is already something entered, which is the typical situation, the time capacity per half month in a certain region. But you would like now to set up this for a different region. So, since this concerns at the beginning all of the machines, we can select all of them. It's in the lower right corner, select all. If you think that there's a certain standard value that will be true for many different half-month periods, then you can set this standard value of the working time capacity maybe at first, and you set it from January first half to December second half. And I set this to a value of, let's say now, maybe 100 hours per half month. And I apply. All right, everything set to 100. But as I already showed, we always have ups and downs. During the year, we have half-month periods with more and half-month periods with less time capacity. Let's say maybe from February first half to March first half, that's 3 periods, we have a higher value because weather conditions allow more hours per half-month period to be worked in the field. So I go up to 130 and I apply. So you see there, January is still 100, February and first half of March is 130. Then let's continue with March second half until April second half. Again, 3 half-month periods. So I go down again, or I go down a little bit to 110 and apply. Then May first half to June second half, that's 2 full months. Let's say only 80, so less favorable conditions for field work. Apply. Then from July until end of September, 110. And the rest of the year, maybe just the 100 that we entered as a standard value. If you want to see how this tabular calendar would look like in such a diagram calendar, like the one that I have shown you before, we just close this for now and close our assistant and have a look at the sheet detail machine, because there this calendar is always displayed in such a diagram form. So you see the 100 was our starting point, 100 hours per half month working time capacity. It went up, it went down, it went below the 100, it went up again, and then arrived at the 100 again. So what we did is a setting for each and every machine. This actually makes sense as a first setting. For some specific machines, it might be reasonable to determine a capacity line that is different from the general one. Maybe, for example, for especially harvesting machines like the combine harvester or the harvester for potatoes or anything like that. And I would just like to show you how this can be done. So I go back to the assistant. I can call it right here from this point, the upper left corner. And again, click on time capacity per period. So you see when you open this, then normally the first line is highlighted, which is usually the tractor for each and every package. So the first block is our first machinery package. Then the second block, second machinery package, always starting with the tractor. So if I now click at the combine harvester, you see that it's not only highlighted in one block, it's highlighted in every block. So I click there again, it disappears in all of the blocks. I again click on the combine harvester and it appears in all of the blocks. I don't want to do it, I don't want to set anything for the tractor, so I click on tractor and all the highlighted tractors are gone. So if I scroll down a bit, you see that in each block now the combine harvester is highlighted. So if we change now the time capacity for the harvester, for the combine harvester, it will be done for each and every package. If you don't want to have it like this, then you could switch this synchronization off. You see there it's set to synchronize, or do not synchronize. Do not synchronize would mean if you click something, it will not be done, the highlighting will not be done in the next block or in any other machinery package, only in one. But I would recommend always do things for all the different packages, because the weather conditions are the same for each and every machine. So now only the combine harvester is selected, and so maybe we have in this last few months in the year, from October to November, we have general time capacity 100 working hours per half month period, but for the combine harvester it's less, because harvesting is only possible maybe less hours than the 100. So I select the period starting in October 1 going up to November 2, second half, and I want to take it down to only 70 hours per half month, and I apply. So you see, if I select it again, the standard value is still 100, but for the combine harvester it's only 70. So this is possible, but please be careful with these things. For most of the machines I would recommend just use one capacity line. If there is special conditions for certain machines, then you can do it as I just showed you. You can even display this in our diagram again. So I close it and close this one as well. So this is still the standard line, because at the moment there's a tractor selected as the active machine. Details for a specific machine, this is a tractor. So if I would like to display now the line for the combine harvester, I open the list of machines and change from that tractor to the combine harvester. I go back to another one. This is the line, the general line, and this is again the line for the combine harvester. Changes only in October and November. With this, the time capacity part of the required settings is done, but the other part is the working time requirement for all the field operations of the different farm enterprises. This is done on the sheet source table. It's the last sheet down here. So this contains a lot of information that defines all the different field operations, names of types of the machines, acquisition costs, time of use over the lifetime, repair costs, diesel demand, working process time demand, all these things. So then, after scrolling to the right for a while, you reach the first farm enterprise, the first crop that can be grown. And this is again a calendar, starting with January, ending with December. Again, we have these half-month periods. And all the different field operations that have to be carried out, in this case for the wheat, can be entered here. You see that in this example, the plowing for the wheat is starting already in January second half, then over February first half, up to February second half. Normally you would think maybe that it should look like this. That you say, okay, mostly it's in February first half, so I put a 1 there because I do it once. 1 times plowing for wheat. But if you do it like this, it's quite unflexible, and in fact it might be the case that you can do it a bit earlier, you can do it a bit later, so there's a longer period than just the 2 weeks of February first half. That's why we can split it up. But the total of all entries must again be a 1 because you do it once. So if you start in January second half, but usually you do just a little, maybe even less than half. So I put a 0.25 there. That's like 25% of the area usually plowed for wheat in second half of January. Then in February first half of the area is usually plowed, 0.5. And the rest, that's 0.25 in February second half. You can choose percentages or shares as you like, but the total of one operation must always be a 1. So, for example, if the seedbed preparation would not look like this, which is again done over 3 periods. If you say no, it has to be done over 2 periods, and half in end of March and the other half in beginning of April, then it might look like this. Maybe for the sowing, if you say, well, I can do it over 3 half-month periods, but the share should always be the same, then it would look like this, 0.33, 0.33, and 0.33. But be careful with this, because now it's actually not really a 1. Because if you add up these numbers, it's just 0.99. Alright? The error is not very big, but to be precise, let's put middle to a 0.34. And then we have a total of 1 again. So what you need to do is, for all the typical crops in that region, for which we have such a calendar, go through this calendar, go through all the field operations and type in when it is done and how many times it is done. Sometimes you may have field operations that are done more than once. Plowing, seedbed preparation, sowing is just done once. So the total always adds up to 1. But maybe for fertilizer application, it can be different. So let me first delete it and then change it a bit. So if you have, for example, the first application of fertilizer in together with the sowing or shortly after the sowing, so maybe like this, 0.5, half of the area here, half of the area here. So that's the first application. If the second application will be done in June, it may look like this, 0.5, 0.5. So we have already 2 applications now. If there's another application and it's definitely only in a certain half-month period, not before, not after, you can even add a 1. So this is how you go through the whole table, all lines that are required, all operations, field operations that are required for the wheat in this case. And if you're done with this, you move to the right and you see the calendar for the next crop, which is barley. And you repeat the same thing for barley and for the maize and the carrots and whatever is in your table, because the typical crops displayed in these calendars are different in each country. So if you want to display this again now in our diagram calendar, I go back to the sheet detail machine. So this is still my capacity line. Well, since we didn't enter any data, we cannot display the time requirement. So we have to enter something. This is very easy. We can just call the assistant. And we take the right hand side and maybe enter something for the wheat. So it's a complete mechanization of an enterprise. So I take the first button, complete enterprise. So this is still empty. So I select the wheat, click on change the value, the hectares of this selected farm enterprise. And yeah, let's see what happens if I add a 50. Enter. Something there already. Let me close this one and close this one. So what you see now in this diagram is time requirement in certain half-month periods for the selected machine. So just a few minutes before, I selected the combine harvester. So it's displaying only the combine harvester, and harvest was entered for August, September, October. If I would like to see what happens the whole year round, I rather select the tractor, because the tractor is basically involved in everything. I open the list of machines again and select the tractor again. So with this, you see it's going up, going down, going up, going down, again and again. With this, now we have set all the calendars, the capacity calendar defining this capacity line, and the requirement, working time requirement calendar that can be displayed like this, and which has to be set up for each and every crop and each and every field operation. With this, the most important steps are done for setting up the IPS for a new region. But it's always a good idea to check a few more things, especially prices, because maybe this might also be different in another region, or it was not updated for quite some time. So what should be done is at the source table, checking the prices for the tractors and implements for all the machines. This is where you find it, acquisition cost, the purchase price. So this is again the list of the operations and all the machines, tractors and implements used for these operations. And this is where you find the prices. The names or types, description of the types of the machines you find here. And if you think that any prices should be changed, adjusted, adopted, then you can directly do this in the sheet. Just click on the cell, type in another price, and that's it. The last step, prices of inputs. This is something you can do using the assistant, because this is something that should anyhow be checked at the beginning of each and every planning process. But to set up now the system newly, it's also a good idea. I call the assistant and click on the left hand side the button for the basic settings and prices. Since this is already explained in another video, I don't want to get into further detail, but if you think any of these prices should be changed, should be adjusted, then you just do it. Don't forget to press or click the apply button after changing the values in the fields, and then you close the dialog and the data entry assistant. And with this, I go back to the control board, or if you like to the assistant sheet, the welcome sheet. Then the IPS is set up for a new region.